Hey, what's shaking, everyone? So, if you have been keeping up to date with the NBA lately, can't say I blame you. In fact, I'd say you'd be the overwhelming fucking majority if you haven't seen a single moment of the cringe inducing pledge drive for shit causes by grown ass men who, and I kid you not, are too traumatized to play a kid's game in an empty arena in isolation by themselves over a justified shooting of a fucking sex offender. I mean, let's take a look at this. Like, fucking look at this. Someone on the right here literally looks like the Afro Omega Man and still has to dress head to toe in the robes of the Woken cult in order to avoid the commie cough that might lower like Sting in 97 down from the rafters. Unfucking believable. But to be fair, this overpaid coffee fetcher isn't the one to blame. Fuck no. It starts at the top, really. The face of the NBA. None other than LeBron James himself. This dude stumbles into more shitty takes than a blind man with vertigo on the set of The View. From blindly supporting Colin Kaepernick's con of the NFL to cover up his inability to read a fucking defense, to glossing over President Trump's oft misused statement on the Unite the Right rally as an excuse to drag MAGA as a racist slogan. This is also the same undereducated, over-spotlighted dunce that decried being a victim of a racist system because a $10,000 plus gate on one of his multi-million-dollar mansions on the other side of the goddamn country had a naughty word graffitied on it. By the way, he never even seen or was in danger of seeing it. Real hot take there, Braun. So we're going to take a look into his social justice he passed. So I want you to cast your minds back for a beat. Back to the spring of 2012. When the original Dindu himself, Skittles and Sprite, Trayvon Martin, was shot. Who was the first to hop on the activism bandwagon, I ask? Well, if you picked Braun, congratulations. It looks like my audience is officially brighter than any of his sycophantic nut huggers. From the outright racist Jamel Hill herself, we are Trayvon Martin. That was the Twitter hashtag to what I would now consider LeBron James's most clutch moment. Led by James and Dwayne Wade. Several members of the Miami Heat posed for a photo in hooded sweatshirts before Friday's game against the Detroit Pistons. Their heads were bowed. Their faces were hidden. While seemingly innocuous enough, LeBron took it a step further than his boys. He wrote R.I.P. Trayvon Martin on his shoes. So the pregame hoodie photo op was just the first of many social justice virtue signals James has pulled out over the years. How about pushing hands up, don't shoot Michael Brown? The lie that led to the destruction in Ferguson. Or what about I can't breathe Eric Gardner? Maybe the reason you can't breathe in those pregame shirts is because there's not enough oxygen in all your own farts you've been huffing. But true humanitarian LeBron James is, though. Obviously. Look at all the glad handing he does. Look at all the platitudes he spews. Surely, his humanitarian efforts go beyond simple factors like race, right? Couldn't be geographical, could it? Oh. Guess not. Looks like the self-interested media mogul's only after his own bottom line. Let's take a look here. What did LeBron James say about China that almost everyone else in the NBA hasn't said? 2? LeBron James saw criticism coming. On October 9th, while in China for a series of exhibition games and in the midst of the crisis for the league created by Houston Rockets general manager Daryl Morey's October 4th tweet for support of the protesters in Hong Kong, James reportedly told NBA Commissioner Adam Silver that he saw little upside in speaking up about the situation when the league wouldn't. It continues. On Tuesday evening, James said it was his belief that Morey was either misinformed or not really educated on the situation with the NBA and China, and insisted that the Rockets' general manager hadn't properly considered the repercussions of his words. So many people could have been harmed, not only financially, but physically, emotionally, spiritually. ESPN reported earlier Tuesday that James and others had lost lucrative endorsement deals and appearances as part of the fallout. LeBron James speaks for the first time since the NBA's trip to China, says Rockets GM Daryl Morey was misinformed about the ramifications of his tweet and not educated about the situation. James clarified his comments on Twitter as well, reiterating that he wasn't talking about supporting the protesters or not, but rather the timing of Morey's statement of support, which was made while the teams were en route to China. I think people need to understand what a tweet or a statement can do to others, and I believe nobody stopped and considered what would happen. Could have waited a week to send it. Well, there you go. Just for a little bit of context, Daryl Morey, GM of the Houston Rockets, the team that fucking put basketball on the map in China, via Yao Ming, by the way, tweets support for Hong Kong against the Chinese Communist Party's takeover. A dumbass can't get his increasingly receding hairline out of his wallet long enough to do something actually humanitarian. But does LeBron's Chinese worldview start there? Of course it doesn't. His dollars over lives agenda starts way back in 2007, at which point, back then he wouldn't even passively stand up for condemnation of Chinese war crimes. The article reads, athletic, amazing, powerful, phenomenal. America's airwaves are jammed with superlatives to describe basketball star LeBron James, who began his first semifinal playoff series this week. No matter how Mr. James' Cleveland Cavaliers fare in their matchup against the Detroit Pistons, however, I've got my own description for his off-court decisions. Cowardly. James's teammate, Ira Newble, recently helped draft an open letter to the Chinese government, condemning its role in the ongoing genocide in Darfur. Everybody on the Cavaliers signed the letter except for James and Damon Jones. James said he didn't have enough information about the issue to take a stand. Mr. Jones wouldn't comment. We can choose to take them at their words, of course, or we can follow the money. James has an endorsement contract with an up-and-coming Chinese shoe and apparel company. James has a $90 million deal with Nike, which has huge business interest in China. So no, this isn't a moral person you should listen to about standing up for the rights of your fellow man. This is someone who not only spreads his cheeks for Big Daddy China, but grabs his ankles and pulls back for China's largest business expense. The Democrats. James's support actually predates his support of the Wicked Witch of Chappaqua. Back in 2008, you'll see, he donated $20,000 to Barack Obama's 2008 campaign through the Democratic White House Victory Fund. I'm sure it's not a big surprise, but membership to the party of Jim Crow and the Klan doesn't come without a heaping helping of Trump derangement syndrome. Trump tweet slams LeBron James, Don Lemon over CNN interview. So after a tit-for-tat shit-flinging event between the two on Twitter, James had a sit-down interview with the worst journalist, and I use the term journalist in the most general sense of the term, and strong candidate for dumbest human being alive, Don Lemon, when James projected the president as using sports to divide people, and it's always been something that brings people together. So it hasn't been difficult, but we've proven that James is a bit of a hypocrite. He further cements this assertion with all the BLM imagery in the bubble courts, as well as a litany of woke slogans for player jerseys. Here are just a few of those aforementioned slogans. Black Lives Matter. Say their names. Vote. I can't breathe. Justice, peace, equality, freedom. Enough. Not something you can have on your jersey, but I've had enough cancer for one day. But don't you dare put anything right of Marx as a slogan. Fuck, I think Derek White in San Antonio is being berated by their resident headcase, Greg Popovich, to go and steal a different jersey. So after these victimized millionaires decided that they were going to sit out Wednesday night's games, we find out what LeBron has actually been up to. NBA star LeBron James's group plans efforts to recruit poll workers for November. A group of prominent athletes fighting voter suppression will collaborate with the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. Well, nothing quite reeks of a coup quite like dealing with an organization like the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. Let's take a look. A group of athletes led by NBA star LeBron James will roll out a multi-million-dollar program in the next few weeks to recruit poll workers in heavily black electoral districts for November's election, a person familiar with the plan said on Monday. More than a vote. A group of prominent athletes fighting voter suppression will collaborate with the NAACP Legal Defense Fund on the program in dozens of states, including battlegrounds such as Georgia, Michigan, Florida, and Wisconsin, where disenfranchisement affects black voters, the source said. Well, I'm sure these polling stations are going to be set up in deep blue districts in the deep blue cities. Ask yourself this one question. Aren't these the cities that are burning, right? Aren't these same cities that did jack shit to prevent the ongoing riots? The Democrats in charge are letting the cities burn and the police be defunded in the face of overwhelming disapproval of that idea. LeBron James needs to understand something. Understand this, you disconnected elitist. Understand the polls were wrong in 2016, and you can bet all your goddamn cheap Chinese sweatshop merch on the fact that they're going to be wrong again. Be conscious of the silent majority. Otherwise, you'll wake up on November 4th and need to buy more than a Tesla to feel safe from your own created fictional boogeyman. I'll leave you with a single clip of this last video. It should perfectly encapsulate every reason why you should be careful which high school dropout you cull your half-baked, breadline cooming opinions from.
Taylor, you want to follow up?
Yeah. So you're holding the autobiography of Malcolm X along with Alex Haley. I don't know how far you are into the book, but what's your biggest takeaway so far?
I kind of just started a couple days ago, but I've read and a lot of notes over the years. It's my first time actually reading this from start to finish. But just a very smart man, very smart man, and basically his words in the '60s and what was going on is actually.
That's enough rambling. So once again, guys, thanks for taking the time to watch this. I've been Don Khan-Swaylo. Remember, follow your gut and get after it. Take care.